Today we're making a 3D skull cake and it is so easy to do, even a beginner baker can make this. Welcome to Jordan's Easy Entertaining, and I'm so excited to share this cake with you today that is perfect for a Halloween centerpiece. This cake uses a 3D cake mold. I'll have a link down below to one I found on Amazon just like this one. So let's get started baking the cake. We're going to use spiced cake mix. Then we're going to add some eggs, some apple juice, and some pumpkin puree. Mix that all up. And then we're going to pour it into the mold. I ended up using 2 boxes of cake mix because each side of the mold holds about 1 box. It took a little over an hour to bake at 350, and look at how this cake turned out. Let it cool all the way, and then we're going to move on to the next step. We're going to use white candy wafers. So melt up your wafers according to the package directions, and then after you've cleaned out the skull mold, we are going to apply the candy wafers in a really thin layer inside of the cavity. So here's something that I did wrong that I would change for next time. On the back side of the skull right here, I made it a little bit too thick where the base of the neck would be. So keep that in mind when you're spreading the candy wafers. Anyway, then you're going to take your cake and place it back into the mold while the candy wafer is still melted, and then fill in any gaps that you can. And then as you can see, I leveled off my cake so it's going to be nice and flat when I put the two pieces together. So now I'm adding in the front part of the skull, and then I'm going to pop this into my refrigerator to let that candy shell harden. So now to remove the skull mask, I found it was easiest to just peel it back. This actually took quite a bit of effort. And then don't worry if any of the candy wafers comes off, because we're going to be able to adjust that in just a little bit. So at this point, I already love how it turned out. In fact, if you wanted to, you could just use the front part of this skull exactly how it is. But we're going to go ahead and put it together. And as you can see, I have it flat because mine was really back heavy. So I had to frost it like this. So just apply a thin layer of buttercream in between and then pop the front right on top. And now you can see it's too heavy to decorate like this. So I had to decorate it um, lying on the back of the skull. And I just took a pastry brush and dipped that into the melted candy wafer, and I just filled in any gaps that I saw. And I wanted to add a lot of the melted candy wafer right under the jaw to make this part of the cake heavier to like counterbalance how heavy the back of the skull is. So I'm just piling this on, and especially because it's still cold, the candy wafer dries and hardens pretty quickly like this. So then I just keep filling in any gaps, especially between where the two halves of the skull come together, and any other little blemishes that are on the skull, and just keep piling it on until it looks good. Now it's ready to stand up, and doesn't that look fantastic? Again, you could just serve it like this without doing anything else. But we are going to smooth out the edges. I'm using a paring knife to get off some of the excess. And then I'm using a damp paper towel to finish smoothing everything up. Now we're going to be adding some edible shimmer powder using a clean, dry cake brush. We're going to add some black straight into the nose and the eye cavities. I picked up my set of brushes at Hobby Lobby, but I'll have an Amazon link down below where you can get some too. These shimmer powders are also available at most craft stores. I think I got this one either at Michael's or Hobby Lobby, but I'll have a link for this as well. So I wanted the skull to look really aged, so I'm using a fluffier brush now and a bronze shimmer powder, especially where there's a lot of texture. And I think it just gives it so much more dimension, and it looks creepier this way. And now to add just a little bit more detail with a finer brush, I'm going back in with that black to really define the teeth of the skull. If you want to stop at this point, it would be a fantastic centerpiece for your Halloween dessert table, but let's bling this skull out. So I'm adding a little bit more of the melted candy wafers to the eye socket, and now I'm going to use some sanding sugar. I've got a mixture of white and gold sanding sugar that I'm going to fill the eye socket with. And then just keep adding more melted wafer and sanding sugar in and around the eye socket until you're satisfied with how it looks. Then I use some cake tweezers to add some edible silver pearls and some purple shimmer rock candy to finish off the look. What do you think? I absolutely love how this cake turned out, and it was really tasty too. So, if you end up making this cake for Halloween or a pirate party or just for whatever reason, I'd love to see your pictures. So, tag me over on Instagram at Jordan's Easy Entertaining. And for more easy and fun Halloween cupcake decorating, click here.